Martha.
I mean, you listen to the foreign minister from Israel there. It's quite clear that they feel that Iran's jubilation over this deal is something to make us all wonder.
Well, they're right. This is a wonderful deal from Iran's point of view. They achieved all of their principal objectives, getting the sanctions lifted, unfreezing the assets that have been held up for years. And they did it by making trivial, easily reversible concessions on the nuclear front. So I think they see their way to nuclear weapons capabilities paved by this deal, legitimized by this deal, and I think they're entirely correct.
All right, so Ash Carter goes over. Obviously, his mission is to do some diplomacy with Israel, to shake hands, to reassure them of our support in the face of this deal. Basically, he said, that we are allies and that on this issue, we will need to agree to disagree. What do you think about that?
Well, of course, for Israel, it's an existential issue. It's a small country, half a dozen nuclear weapons.
Yeah, that makes it a little tough to be an agree to disagree issue, doesn't it?
Exactly. And I think when Ariel Sharon called the risk of a nuclear capability in Iran as posing the threat of a nuclear holocaust to his country, he was exactly right. This is something that I think the Israelis perceive as the biggest threat they've ever faced in the history of the State of Israel. I think they're right. And interestingly, of course, the Israeli view is almost exactly the same as the view in Saudi Arabia and many other Arab countries, that an Iran with nuclear weapons dramatically changes the balance of power in their region.
Earlier we showed a soundbite from the Secretary of State, John Kerry, and he was basically saying, look, we had to go to the UN to put this through yesterday. We know that Congress is going to take 90 days to approve the deal for the United States as part in this. He said that was a tricky thing for us to pull off with these negotiating countries because they don't want to be beholden to the United States Congress. What do you think about that?
Well, that's ridiculous. What he should have said is we're walking a very fine line with Congress here, and the best way to maximize our chances of getting it approved is wait for the sovereign nations who are negotiating the deal to go through their own national decision-making process. All of them, not just the United States. They don't want to do that because I think there's a theology that some people hold that somehow the Security Council can bind Congress with the result. That's not true. On this earth, for Americans, there's no authority higher than the Constitution. But I think that's in their view, and it was an insult to the Congress.
What do you think about the time frame? I know you believe that they will move forward with building nuclear weapons in Iran during the course of this deal, but they're always very crafty in terms of how they do things and the time window that it falls on for American politics. So we are going to be in an election year next year. You hear all these Republican candidates saying that they're going to look for ways to peel this back, to put the sanctions back into place. What do you expect their timing to be in that?
Well, I think in the near term, they're going to be Miss Goody Two-Shoes in Tehran. They want the IAEA to say we can't find any military applications, and that's probably what they'll be able to get. Then they want the sanctions lifted, and then it's back to business as usual. The Ayatollahs can read the calendar just like we can. They don't know who's going to be elected in November of next year, but they know they've got their mark in the White House right now. So my view is they're not going to wait 10 years for this deal to expire. They're going to move aggressively now to get that capability. And if I were the Ayatollahs, if I were going to test in Iran, I'd test the day after the 2016 election.
Interesting. One last question. John Kerry was talking about this deal, and he said, anytime, anywhere inspections is just a silly idea. It never happens that way. Do you agree with that?
Well, he's right. In effect, it's just the deception that the administration practiced by saying, don't worry, we will get this in place. And that, I think, is what Iran has been counting on. I think they are already in violation of this treaty, this agreement, that would comport with their behavior in the past. They've been planning for it for years. I believe they've got facilities we simply don't know about. At least there's a very substantial risk of that. And the work there will proceed without any inspection by anybody because we don't even know they exist.
Well, they may be goody two-shoes in some regards after this deal, but they don't do any effort to quell the chance of death to America, death to Israel in the streets. All of that continues to be encouraged on a daily basis. Ambassador Bolton, thank you very much.